So the most accurate pollster of the 2024 election cycle is out with some new numbers, and they are horrible for Trump. So let me walk you through this. This is in Newsweek. Trump's approval rating hits second-term low with most accurate pollster. President Trump's approval rating has fallen to a new low, according to the nation's most accurate pollster. The latest Atlas Intel survey, conducted between May 21st and 27th among about 3,400 adults, shows that Trump's approval rating has fallen to 45%, while 54% disapprove. So that's -9. That is the lowest rating of his second term so far. In previous Atlas Intel polls, his approval ranged between 46 and 50%, while his disapproval ranged between 49 and 52%. So in other words, he was around even in this pollster, right? And now he's -9 in this pollster. Atlas Intel was ranked the most accurate polling company of the 2024 election by survey veteran Nate Silver and was previously named the most accurate pollster of the 2020 election by 538. Recent surveys had shown Trump's approval rating creeping back up after a period of decline following the introduction of his Liberation Day tariffs in April, which saw the stock market fall. But polls published in recent days show a more complicated picture of Trump's support. So look, I have to admit, to me, this is terrifying. This fact right here is absolutely horrifying to me. Because the number of crimes he's committed in this time, the number of horrific decisions that have been made, the shredding of constitutional rights, the warmongering, the trade war, all of the things that have been done. And yes, he plummeted during the Liberation Day tariffs, right? But then it seemingly bounced back a little bit after it. What that says to me is, this is a problem with the Democrats hammering away at him. Because if people knew all of the things that we talk about on this show and you guys know, then there's no way he would ever have bounced back even a point. He would have gone down more. So this is a messaging problem. This is a media problem. This is a Democratic Party problem because he's by far and away the worst president in modern American history, and now it's not even particularly close. I think it was close in the first term between him and George W. Bush. Now I think he's eclipsed George W. Bush. The fact that that is not being reflected in every poll is absolutely devastating. It really is, man. Trump's declining approval rating comes as the number of Americans who rate his overall performance as excellent or good has dropped from 46% in February to just 39% in May, according to Atlas Intel. So that was an Atlas Intel poll that had him at 39% support in May. That's the peak of where he should be. In reality, he should already be around like 30%. Over the same period, those who rate his performance as poor versus very poor has climbed from 47% to 54%, indicating a clear erosion of support as the year has progressed. So I think, look, my theory on what's leading to this now, because the Democrats aren't resisting in a way that would drive these numbers down further. I don't think the media is doing a particularly great job. So I think that the decline, I think that's closely linked to prices starting to go up because of the tariffs, which we've already seen, right? Stock market being incredibly volatile, plummeting like seemingly every week. It'll come back up and then it plummets again, and the cost of goods going up. I think that's probably the biggest factor. You know, also, look, he used to be like plus 15 on immigration. Now he's like -2, and that's because people know about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They know about shipping innocent people to a concentration camp in El Salvador. But again, I can't stress this enough. Politics is the art of repetition. You have to hammer him on this over and over and over and drive those numbers down as much as possible. Similarly, in the realm of the U.S. economy, once a strength for Trump, only 42% now give him positive marks, while 54% rate his performance as poor or terrible. So he's underwater 12 points on the economy. This marks a notable decline from April, when economic approval briefly ticked up. Trump fares even worse on issues like healthcare and the national debt. Only 38% of Americans believe he's handling healthcare well. Yeah, because they're stripping healthcare from millions of people with their big, beautiful bill. $800 billion cut, more than that, to Medicaid. So, shit, he shouldn't even be at 38%. While 53% disapprove of his position on healthcare. On the national debt, a significant gap remains, with just 42% approving and 54% disapproving. That's probably because we learned about how much he's adding to the debt with the big, beautiful bill. His approach to safeguarding democracy has also drawn criticism, with a 6-point deficit between positive 47% and negative 53% ratings, though this reflects a slight improvement from April. Even in areas like China-U.S. competition, where Trump previously maintained relatively balanced support, sentiment has tilted more negatively. As of May, 53% disapprove of his handling of the issue compared to 45% who approve. So look at this. How has Trump's approval rating changed since January? And you can see the disapproval goes up. The approval goes down to down to down to down. And that trend should continue as long as the media tells the truth and as long as the Democrats fight. And I'm more concerned about the latter of those two things. I don't think the media does a phenomenal job, but the Democrats have really, many of them have been very hands-off, and that's a real problem. And then you can see here his job approval rating. You saw this was the disapproval peak was, looks like April? Yeah, probably, around Liberation Day, I would guess. And then now he's still massively underwater, but look, again, there's no excuse. The disapproval should be climbing. The approval should be sinking more and more. So I have more for you. This is from Harry Enton over on CNN. He's got some numbers for us. Let's watch.
I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I know what losing feels like, and I will tell you that the courts have halted Trump's admin agenda a huge number of times. What are we talking about? We're talking about at least 181 times that they have at least temporarily, halted Trump's agenda. That is a huge number.
By the way, MAGA cites this number as if to suggest, see, they treat Trump unfairly harsh. They blocked him 181 times. And it's like, no, he was blocked 181 times because he was doing 181 illegal things. And in fact, I would argue this number's low. He's probably done 400 wildly illegal things, and they let him get away with some of them, right? These are conservative-leaning courts. So for them to block him 181 times, I mean, your decisions have to be horrifically illegal.
Give you that in percentage terms. In over 50% of the cases that are presented to courts, the Trump administration agenda has been halted, at least temporarily.
And by the way, recently it's been over 90% of the decisions.
Donald Trump, tries to do these actions with his administration, but the courts have been saying, hold on, wait a minute here. And they have said that at least 181 times so far in just the first few months of this administration.
It's quite a number. On tariffs, some of the latest is this moniker that Wall Street we're learning that's being thrown around on Wall Street, which is TACO, an acronym for Trump always chickens out.
Yes.
You have numbers on that.
By the way, let me just say, the reason I don't like the taco stuff is because if you say to Trump, hey, you always chicken out of the tariffs, what Trump is liable to do is go, no, I don't, watch this, and then slap some giant tariff, which will further destroy the economy, which will further make prices go up, which will hurt the economy, hurt people's jobs. And so I think the taco thing, there's a grain of truth in it because he always comes out super high with the tariffs and then he's forced effectively to bring that number back down to something much less. The reason he's forced is because, the U.S. dollar plummets every time he does these tariffs because the flight to safety is no longer to the U.S. dollar. Now the flight to safety is to gold. And so the dollar weakens by the day with his high tariff. So he ends up, the China tariffs were 145%. He had to bring them down to 30%. 30% is still fucking super high. It's terrible. And so it's technically true. Trump always chickens out. He took it from 145 to 30. But in reality, that number should not be 30. That number should be 0, right? Or whatever, 2%. It should be way, way, way lower. And so I don't like it because it incentivizes him to be even crazier and be even dumber and be even more wrong and crash the stock market more and raise prices more and do worse tariffs. So while I understand where it comes from, I understand the sentiment. When people started really pushing that, I was like, the impact of this is going to be that he's going to do some insane tariffs and then stick to it and fuck us all.
Just TACO, an acronym for Trump always chickens out.
Yes.
You have numbers on that.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things, you hear these things going on, you say, okay, is this actually entering the mainstream culture? And we can see this right here in Google searches. The top term that was Googled with Donald Trump on Thursday was taco. It was taco. Indeed, get this. The terms Trump and taco Google together up through the roof. Get this. 9,900% increase on Thursday versus Tuesday.
It's so crazy because you never know the things that are going to stick, right, in the public consciousness. You never know. And then this thing comes along and for whatever, it just sticks. It just sticks. 9,900% increase? Jesus.
So if you are wondering whether or not this Trump always chickens out and the acronym taco actually has entered the mainstream, well, Google gives it away. It 100% has. And this to me is quite troubling for Donald Trump because obviously he trades on his name. He trades on the idea that he does what he says. And if all of a sudden you're associating Trump always chickens out with Donald Trump, well, that is no bueno.
So one of the things that you hear from the president and his allies is what's being blocked. What he's doing is exactly what he promised on the campaign trail, and exactly, he says, what Americans voted for and put him in the White House again to do. How do you relate? How does it relate, and what are you saying in terms of how Americans feel about the president and campaign promises?
Right, exactly right. You know, if the injunctions are being put in by courts, if all of a sudden he's always chickening out when it comes to his, tariffs, then all of a sudden Donald Trump can't actually do what he promised to do, and that, of course, is Donald Trump's bread and butter. And, even before the TACO acronym came into effect, our CNN poll asked, good at keeping campaign promises. Look at this. Just 48% of Americans said that Donald Trump was good at keeping campaign promises. Joe Biden's number in April of 2021 was actually higher than that.
Wow. Biden straight up draxing Trump on keeping campaign promises. Holy cow.
Higher than that at 59%. Now, obviously, that Biden number would go down during his administration. But if you compare where Donald Trump is right now in his presidency to where Joe Biden was in his presidency, Donald Trump's trademark is keeping campaign promises, and less than 50% of Americans say he's doing a good job, and north of 50% of Americans saying he's doing a bad job on the thing that should be a hallmark for Donald Trump, and he is failing at that in the minds of the American public right now.
But I will say, though, this is the way it works with Trump. When he says he's going to do something that's bad, he's telling the truth. He's actually going to do it. When he says he's going to do something that's good, he's lying. He's not going to do that good thing, right? And so, for example, he was keeping his campaign promise when he basically just stripped away the legal status of 500,000 immigrants in this country. He just stripped it away. Well, he kind of said he was going to do that, right? When he was running around everywhere saying, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. We got to get them out of here. In that scenario, he was talking about legal Haitian immigrants in the Midwest. And so, yeah, he stripped everybody's legal status. He stripped the legal status for Venezuelans and Cubans and Haitians and some others. And, he did it. But the thing is, when he would say, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, we got to get them out of here, we got to do mass deportations. He would say that. He would target legal immigrants. But a lot of people were hearing he's only going to go after the illegal immigrants who are violent criminals, right? I mean, how many times have you heard that from some Trump supporter? He goes after some innocent person who's never committed a crime, ships them to the slave labor gulag, and a lot of Republicans are like, I didn't vote for that. I thought you were only going to go after the criminals. And it's like, well, he didn't say that. He did make clear he was going to go after legal immigrants, but you just heard what you wanted to hear, right? And so, in a sense, he is keeping his campaign promise in that instance, but it's a bad promise, and I don't want him to do it, right? So, but Biden destroying Trump on keeping campaign promises at this point in his administration. Look, all the numbers to this point have been it's really not looking good for Trump. He hit a record low in his second term with the most accurate pollster. That counts. That matters for something, right? But at the same time, well, you need to understand, yes, the Democrats are up 9 points in the generic ballot for the midterms. 9 points. That is solid. But at the same time, that is soft support. And I say it's soft support because people just look at the horrors of the Trump regime and they go, not this. Let's go the other direction. Just not this. This is bad. And they're right about that. But imagine how much better Democrats would be doing if it wasn't just you're picking up the angry people by default because they feel like there's no other option. Imagine if you actually were providing a counter agenda, blocking Trump, going after all the horrible policies, but beyond that, having your own agenda which speaks to the people. So now I give you one more set of numbers here, and this also is super important. People need to take the right lessons from this. Here we go.
And this morning, we have a brand new CNN poll that shows what voters are thinking about both parties. David Chalian joins me here at the Magic Wall to take us through this poll. So, David, what are the key takeaways?
Yeah, this is where we left off on election night 2024, but we wanted to get a sense of where Americans are right now. And one key trend we're looking at here, Manu, is should the government do more, or is the government trying to do too much? 58% in our new poll of Americans now say the government should do more. That is a 30-year high that we have seen. So what's driving that? Why are so many fewer Americans saying that the government is trying to do too much? Well, as you might imagine, we're seeing that movement among Republicans who are in charge of all aspects of government right now. Look at this huge drop. From August of 23, 73% of Republicans said the government was doing too much. That was when Joe Biden was president. Now it's down to 57%. But we also see this decrease in those saying the government's doing too much among independents as well. We also wanted to test where the country stood with the parties on various issues, okay? Crime and policing is by far and away the Republicans' best advantage.
By the way, that makes me want to, put a power drill to my skull. Trump pardoned, what was it, 1,600 January 6th rioters, over 400 of them violent criminals. pardon a guy who ended up doing pedophilia, a guy who ended up killing a woman. He's literally picking out the worst white-collar criminals in the country who committed all sorts of fraud and pardoning them. The guy is objectively pro-crime. Objectively. He commits crimes all the time. For the public to say, oh yeah, Republicans are better on crime, I mean, that is just, like, you're just wrong. How many outright criminals does he have to pardon for you to go, you know what? Maybe he actually is pro-crime, like, objectively pro-crime. As long as you're a white-collar criminal, he supports you. Doesn't matter how many lives you ruin, doesn't matter how many, how many things you steal, right? Think of the subprime mortgage crisis in the Great Recession. Wall Street's responsible for effectively stealing homes from people. But people don't think of it like that. They don't look at it like that. It's just crazy to me. Like, just this week, we've had just a laundry list of con men fraudsters stealing millions from people who Trump pardoned, and somehow the Republicans are better on crime and policing? Fuck out of here.
But look at the economy and immigration. Two key Trump issues. You see, it's still a Republican advantage, but you see that advantage is narrowing on both of those key issues. This gets to what Amy was saying, I think, about some of the anxiety people have about the economy over the tariffs that we were talking about. A dead tie on world affairs, and where the Democrats have the edge, education, abortion, and climate change. We also took a look at some key attributes. This is how Americans sort of see the parties. Which party is better described as the party with strong leaders? Look at this.
Wow.
16% of Americans say Democrats, 40% say that of the Republican Party. Now, overall, no party's doing great. Lots of Americans say neither of these qualities apply to either party, but look at how much worse off the Democrats are. A party that gets things done. Only 19% of Americans say that about the Democrats. 36% say it about the Republicans. In fact, the only place that the Democrats are numerically ahead, party of the middle class, this is basically a tie, though. Yeah. 34% say that of Democrats, 32% say that of Republicans. But this, I think, is the most fascinating. How do partisans talk about their own party? Right? So among Democrats and Democratic leaners, 32% say Democrats are the party with strong leaders. I mean, of their own kind, right? 82% of Republican leaders say that about the GOP. Only 41% of Democrats say they're the party that gets things done of their own kind. And I will just say, 51%, Manu, a majority of Democratic and Democratic leaners say neither party gets the party that gets things done attribute.
Are you understanding this yet? Are you getting this yet? You had these abysmally low numbers. This is Democratic voters basically saying, our party does not have strong leaders. Our party does not get things done. Our party does not have a vision. Our party does not have fighters. They are screaming, we need you to fight. We need you to be strong. We need you to represent something. We need you to block everything the Trump regime does. Everything they do. Everything is horrible. Block it all, and you argue for our narrative, for our list of policies. We want universal health care, Medicare for all. We want people to be able to join a union. We want paid family leave and paid medical leave. We want higher wages. We want to tax the wealthy and, make Social Security stronger, make Medicare stronger. I mean, guys, the fact that the door is wide open for Democrats, where it's like everybody kind of sees Republicans are sort of crazy and they're doing these horrible things to the country, cutting Medicaid, destroying pediatric cancer research, destroying Meals on Wheels, raising prices by doing tariffs. People see all that. But then when you ask them about the Democrats, they're like, yeah, they're like weak bitches, bro. Like, all you have to do is resist everything the Republicans are doing, and you argue till you're blue in the face. We want Medicare for all. We want free college. We want a living wage. We want to tax the wealthy. We want to redistribute. We want to end the wars. This all you have to do is actually represent something and fight. But that's the thing. Americans sort of smell it on the Democrats that you guys don't really stand for anything. To be fair, there are exceptions. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Tim Walz, there are exceptions where it's like, okay, you actually stand for something. But when you look at Chuck Schumer, when you look at Hakeem Jeffries, when you look at Democratic leadership, and they're so feckless and weak and pathetic, then you get polls like this. So imagine, guys, if the Democrats are up in the generic poll right now by 9% for the midterms, imagine if they actually fought and stood for something. They'd be up 23%.
That's the project the Democrats are working on.
Yeah, and beyond the issues here, there's some structural problems with the Democrats as well.
There are. And again, this is where we ended up on election night in 2024. This is by county. Obviously, these were the results. But what I want to show you on this next map is we have this amazing opportunity. Donald Trump, a candidate 3 times in a row, to look at those 3 successive elections and take a look here among the shifts that we saw across the country. Everywhere you see red here is a place that Donald Trump improved his performance from 16 to 20 to 24. Now, he lost some of these counties. He didn't win all of them. But you see how much more red there is than blue. Places where, Clinton did better than Obama, Biden did better than Clinton, and Harris improved on that. Far fewer places in America than when Donald Trump increased his vote share over those 3 successive presidential elections, Manu.
And look, that's embarrassing for the Democrats. Call it what it is. That is fucking embarrassing for the Democrats. And so the answers couldn't be more clear, man. They could not be more clear. The Republicans are fucking everything up. It is a horrific regime. They're destroying constitutional rights, warmongering, launching trade wars, raising prices, raising taxes on regular people, destroying Medicaid. You, call all of that out, hammer them on all of that, and then you argue for the right policies, for Medicare for all, for free college, for a living wage, for higher taxes on the wealthy, redistributing. Go after the criminal billionaires. Lock them up. Elon Musk is a criminal. Lock him up. Disband Palantir. Trump's trying to create a spying database, a blackmail database on all Americans. Why are you not talking about it? Why are you not talking about it? So the feckless, weak leadership has to stop. I don't know how much more clear they can make it. Now is not the era when fascists are taking over. Fascists and robber barons are taking over. And your plan is to go hide in the corner and hope the pendulum swings back. Well, yeah, the pendulum might swing back, but you might have a 1 or 2 seat majority, which means you can't get shit done, right? If you actually fight, you can make it so you have a 30-seat majority in the House, right? What are we talking about here? Lives are literally at stake, bro, with the Medicaid cuts. Lives are literally at stake, foreign policy-wise. What are you doing? What are you doing? So the numbers are horrible for Trump, but the fact of the matter is the weakness and fecklessness of the Democrats makes it so there's still a competition. You should be able to bury this motherfucker and his entire party 50 times over with how horrible they are. It's that simple. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.